Hello, it's Victoria from Coastal Themes, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a mega menu just like this one, where you can put your menu items under an item on hover, and you can see that it has hover states and active states depending on the page it is going to. So I have duplicated this navigation into my Coastal playground, and I already have this drop down here, but I'm going to be recreating one on the second navigation item. Once you click on the nav item you want the hover to be triggered by, and then the mega menu to be triggered by, you click on the link or the component, you scroll down on your right hand panel to overlays, and you hit plus. Click relative, as this drop down is relative to the element itself. So here you can see I have my new drop down, and I can see that it displays on hover. You can also make it display on click. I can see that the position is aligned to the bottom of the item. If it's aligned to the left, you'll see it will move to the left hand side of pricing. The right will move to the right hand side, and top will be above. So we're going to leave it at the bottom. Alignment dictates where it's aligned with reference to the item. So I'm going to choose left align. You can choose center or right, kind of depends on what you're designing and kind of also what language you're designing in. So we're going to left align it. And then these are the offsets. So these are the X offsets. This is the X coordinate. You can see here it's 0% offset from the X, which means it's aligned on the left hand side. And then the Y, which is the horizontal, is, you can see it's about 7.7 pixels, and that's from this point here, so it rounds up to 8, but we're actually going to make that 24. So now that we've decided its positioning, we can also decide if it's going to be dismissible by auto, which means when I hover away it will dismiss, or if only dismissible if I click away. And that looks something like this. So when I hover it appears, and if I hover away it stays unless I click, and then it will disappear. But that isn't my UX advice. I would prefer if it was auto, and then it would look a bit like this, only when I hover it disappears. So those are the settings for the overlay, and we're going to build out a simplified mega menu. So I'm actually going to build it directly into this component, and I'm going to use some menu components I already have. So I have these menu components wherein I have the links, the link names with a description, a hover state, and a press state. I also have an active state. We can go through active states in another tutorial, as it is a different beast to tackle. Default states and hover states are super simple, so I will show you that. So when you create your component, you just want to make sure you have variables for the page name and variables for the description, because you'll need to change these on your menu. I do advise making your mega menu into a component, so you can just drop that into your pages rather than having to duplicate it each time. So jumping back to our overlay, I'm going to put a layout of this. I'm going to make the direction vertical, and I'm going to drag in my component. Now you can see I've got a mega menu component within my overlay, and I'm going to make the width fit content. I'm also going to make the height fit content, and I'm going to give a padding of around 16 pixels, just so I have some space. So now you can see I can adjust the page name, so we can make this home, for example. And I can put a description. And I can also adjust the link. Obviously, I would make this to go to the home page. So now I can start building out my menu. So I've put in 3 pages, and I think that's looking good. I'm going to leave it as 3, but I do want that kind of mega menu width effect, and it works really well here because I have a lot of items, but I'm going to show you how we can incorporate some images to make it more of a mega menu looking menu. So what I'm going to do is group these and wrap these in a stack. I'll leave the arrangement vertically. I'm going to align them to the left. And then I'm actually going to change the alignment of this whole section and the direction. I'm going to make it a horizontal alignment, and then I'm going to start putting in some images and an example of how you can do this. So I'm going to make the width around 400. And you can kind of see what direction we're going in. I'll add a radius, and then I'm going to add an image, which I'm going to just use Unsplash for. I'm going to use this fashion image. So now you can see I'm kind of getting this effect where you have a lot of elements in the mega menu, and you also have some images, and I want this image to be linked to other pages. So I'm actually going to wrap it in a frame. And I'm also going to add an overlay. I'm just going to decrease the brightness so I can put text over this. Obviously, I recommend you use your own images, and also you can apply an overlay in a few different ways. One of them obviously is decreasing the brightness, but this does amend the photo file itself. So I would recommend using an overlay just with a frame. But for the sake of speed, this is perfect. And then I'm going to put a text layer over here. And we're going to make sure that the height fits the content and the width fits the content. And it will be absolutely positioned, so I'm just going to align it from the left and the bottom and make sure we can see it. We'll make it semi-bold. And then I can also add a link to this, and I'll make it link back to the home page as well. So now I can see I've started to build this mega menu style. So if you think you are planning to have a mega menu that spans the full width of the page, I would then start to consider building it in a different way. This is really easy for mega menus like the one I showed you, like this. But if you're looking to have something span the full width of the page, then I would start kind of building it with your header and making it a variant of the header when this item has been hovered. But for the case of this and a small mega menu, having it spaced here is perfect. But once it starts getting a bit wider, you can see that even if it's center aligned and the width is starting to become the width of the page, and also you must keep in mind that your page widths differ depending on who's looking. So even though you're editing on desktop size, someone might be looking at on a variety of different viewport widths. You could also consider using a different type of overlay, like a modal. So there are a few different ways to do this. So that's actually pretty much it. I've created a relative overlay. I've got some menu items which already have hover states, which you can decide yourself using hover states in the components. And I've added an image and I've linked the text within the image. I can also obviously add another hover state to this, make this whole section a component. You can kind of build it out within the overlay however you'd like, but the main kind of concept to getting the mega menu and the hover is by using overlays. So hopefully that's been really helpful. If you want me to go into anything more specific or to see a more specific style of mega menu, do let me know. But relative overlays are going to be your friend, and hover states and components. So make sure you're using these things in the most logical way and kind of think from the individual elements, so your menu items, all the way up to the actual overlay and drop down itself. That's it from me today, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye!